everyone. Welcome back to the Israel Connection. I'm Esti Zenati. And my guest today is originally from Israel and now based in New York. Dana Cwaigrach is a social impact leader. Following the October 7 attacks, she co-founded and led the U.S. branch of the Hostages and Missing Families Forum, building a national advocacy movement from the ground up to keep the hostages' plight at the forefront of global consciousness. Her distinguished career in diplomacy and community building includes serving in the office of President Shimon Peres and directing national programs at the Ramon Foundation. Dana, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me.
So let's begin. Let's go to the very beginning of you growing up in Israel. What was it like for you, and how did that experience lead you on a professional path that you're on?
Well, I think once you grow up in Israel, I moved to New York. I've been here for like three and a half years. So my entire adult life, my entire life really has been in Israel. And I think one thing that really distinguishes living in Israel and growing up in Israel is you are always aware of your environment.
Mm-hmm.
I grew up at Intifadot. You know, I grew up in Tel Aviv. So when I was like 10. We had Intifadot. I needed to watch buses. I needed to watch where I was going all the time. You're always growing up with the idea that you will serve in the army. So I think I was politically aware. I grew up in a very politically aware house, and
Mm-hmm.
combining with that and the fact that you live in Israel, I was always very vigilant to my community, to the politics in Israel. I would go to protests from a very young age. I would go to protests, I think, from the age of probably 13 to 14.
Wow.
And I would like grab my parents to go with me. I grew up in like a house that you watch the TV and you get mad. And then I started thinking, well, if I'm mad, why don't I do something about it? So I would drag my parents to go to protests and stuff. And I became very politically aware since I was a very young girl. And once I served the army, and I became even much more aware of everything is happening in Israel. I knew from very young that I wanted to be in the social impact world. I worked at the Paris Center for Peace. That was like my first job after college. I was like 24 when I started there. It was the first job I ever did outside of like my first adult job, I would call it. And I knew from very early on that this is the career I want for myself. I never thought I'd be doing hostage advocacy in New York. That I never thought I would do that, obviously.
Yeah,
we
ever thought that we would get to that.
Yeah, I wish I never had to do that, honestly. But yeah, completely. I mean, I don't think if I would have grown up here in New York, I would have been this politically aware. I would have cared so much. But yeah, it was just growing up like that made me this way.
So we mentioned earlier that you worked in the office of Shimon Peres, Zichrono Livracha.
Yeah.
What was that experience like for you? And was there like a piece of wisdom or like a specific leadership trait that you learned from him that guided you throughout your professional life and brought you to where you are now?
Well, gosh, I mean, it's, I had the really distinct privilege to working for what I think is one of the best leaders that Israel ever had. And I was so young, and I couldn't believe that, I was working at such a young age with this man, and I worked directly for him. So I really felt privileged and honored. I think one of the most important things I learned from him very early on is his empathy.
Mm-hmm.
He had this distinct ability to have empathy for everyone, for our enemies, for the people who wish us ill, for the people who wish us good. He had this very much ability to see that everybody comes from different backgrounds. We don't all share the same identities. We don't all share. We didn't all grow up the same way, but he had this ability to understand that people do sometimes bad things, or people do have are guided and by bad people sometimes, and he had this really sense of empathy. He could feel empathy for people from all walks of life. And I mean, I think it's a really important quality for a leader to have, to not see only people as good and bad, to see that situations are complicated, that we sometimes do things that we wish we shouldn't have done, or that maybe we should have done something differently. And that is one of the most distinct things I learned from him. I learned so much from him, but that's like one thing that would be it.
Did you get to spend a lot of like personal time with him and like just have a personal conversation with him?
I mean, yeah, but I have to say I was so shy, and I was so timid, and I was one of the youngest girls in the office, and I gotta say that my shyness, like it run me over. Like a lot of the times I was in the room and I was like, oh my God, I can't speak. But I did have like a few personal conversations with him, and yeah, I worked with him until he passed away. So it was an honor.
And he lived a long life, which was wonderful.
Yes, and I only had the privilege of working for him for his last 2 years.
Yeah. So after the October 7th attack, you co-founded the U.S. branch of the Hostages and Missing Families Forum. What was that process like for you, and how did you prioritize your immediate goals for that?
So on October 7th, I was a student at Columbia. I was living in New York. The first week was very hectic. Obviously, I mean, everything, nobody knew what was going on. Nobody really understood what was happening. And in the following days after October 7th, one of my friends, who led the pro-democracy movement here in New York, he was contacted from Israel, and they told him, listen, we understand that there are a lot of hostages. I mean, this is like October 10th. We didn't even have clear numbers of who exactly is kidnapped, who is missing. Everything was extremely chaotic. They called him up and said, listen, we understand that the hostages are going to be a huge issue. We're building some sort of hostages forum, and we want there to be a significant presence in the United States. And he's a friend of mine from Colombia. He kind of gathered us up. I was living in New York. A friend of ours, Matan, who was also a student in Colombia, was living in DC. And we all decided, okay, we're going to do this. We initially started our branch here in New York. Matan and Bar built their branch in DC. And then after a few months, we collaborated to one big branch. But the first beginning weeks, we didn't really understand what we were doing. We just knew that we had to make a clear voice that we are here for the hostages. And we just started protesting in New York. We started gathering, we started organizing events, rallies, protests. We understood that people wanted to be together. People wanted to hear the voices of Israelis, of the Jewish community. And we just started organizing. And then we started strategizing after a couple of weeks when we understood, because in the very beginning stages, a person has to understand, we thought that, okay, this would end in like 4 or 5 weeks.
Right.
We didn't think about this long term. We thought, okay, 4 or 5 weeks, most of them will be home. Let's just do something to make it clear that this is being heard, that we are echoing what is being done in Israel. But we were sure that this will be done very soon. And then once we understood that this is much more complicated than we thought, then we started to actually strategize and be much more organized and really thinking more long term.
Yeah, so we know that the international media or the news cycle was constantly moving to other things and kind of avoiding the hostages basically and their existence. How did you and your team ensure that their voices are out there as well, that the public always has them in their consciousness, always remembers them, and always speaks about them to make sure that nobody forgets?
So of course, I mean, one of the reasons why we did big events in New York was because of the counter protests that were happening in New York. And it was very important for us that the voices of the hostages, the voices of Israel, are moving forward in America and people are hearing them. So not only did we organize events and protests throughout these 2 years, but especially in the first couple of months, we also made sure that there's media presence. We always made sure that we are connected to Israeli and international media. We made sure that everything that we do is covered, both in social media and regular media. And we worked very hard on it to make sure that this is echoed, and this is not just in the small chamber of the Jewish community in New York, that this is echoed widely and spread widely. And obviously, as we moved forward, we made sure that there are delegations of family members and survivors coming in, coordinating meetings, scheduling events, scheduling interviews for family members and survivors as the weeks went by, and making sure that is echoed in the multitude of international outlets that are out there. It's one of the most important things that we did.
What were like the biggest challenges that you faced in New York, particularly? Because I know there have been a lot of anti-Israel protests, a lot of poster ripping of the hostages. So what was that like for you, like putting up a rally over there and doing all those things in New York with everything that's going around us?
Yeah. I mean, I think one thing that I don't know if people are aware or not aware, but one of the things that we always had to make sure that we have security presence.
Yeah.
I worked, some people would laugh at me of like, I can already like work for the NYPD because I have all these contacts, all the detectives, the police, I have them on my phone. And we always made sure that we are working in coordination with the police. We always did what the police told us. We always stood where the police guided us to stand. We always followed the police protocol, and we had our own private security team. We spent a lot of, we didn't have any funds for the first year of this entire thing. We were all volunteers for the first year of this, and most of the funds that we got for donations were spent on like posters and stuff to print out and for security. We had to make sure that every event that we have is secured very, very tightly. And also a lot of people were afraid to come to our events because they were afraid. So we had to also make sure that people are aware that it's very tight, like it's very security tight.
Did you have any like bad incidents with protesters, like, anti-Israel protesters?
I mean, every week we had a weekly rally. Every week we had people who would scream something. Most of it was okay. Most of it was just like, people screaming, Free Palestine, or, all the very Free Palestine was the best shout that we got. We got like more violent shout, but it was some incidents were a bit scary, but thank God we always had security there who were able to like, make the situation more calm. But every week we had something, every week.
Yeah. I mean, watching look on social media, watching Shai Davidai and all the other people in New York talking about these protests, and it's scary just to see the level of hate that they have, and yeah. So I can only imagine what it feels like being there in the core of this whole thing.
Yeah, one of the things that the NYPD very quickly understood, if like, let's say we're doing a protest outside the UN or something, there needs to be a very strict perimeter for us and a very strict perimeter for them. And I had, as the person who would need to organize this, I would need to be very vigilant of asking the people who we're with, do not engage. And sometimes they would come to our protests and be like, and I would literally have to like, we are not like them. Please do not engage. Do not do this. We are here to fight for our people. And it was, it was hard because they're shouting, they're coming in with these very vicious posters about us. Sometimes the posters itself were like, it was violent in the phrasing that they're using, and we would have to be you always have to be the adult. And like in this, like you feel like you're the adult in the kindergarten, and like don't engage, and it's hard, and it's hard to just be okay with what you're doing.
Yeah, it's hard controlling your emotions when you have so much of that in your face.
Exactly.
Yeah. So what was it like for you working closely with the hostage families and, listening to all of their stories and balancing that with the work that you were doing? Because you have to do work, but also I can't imagine how hard it is, just emotionally hard, to be there.
It's interesting that you're asking this now, because over the past 2 years, I was asked that a lot. And because we were doing the work itself, I felt like this, this is not about me. This is not an important thing. I'm putting myself aside. And now that we are over, and except
Almost.
for one, that's what I'm saying. Like one hostage is still there, but most of the hostages are back home. I can say how it was extremely hard mentally. It was, it was very hard hearing these stories on a day-to-day basis, the level of trauma, and in the end, the hostages' families and survivors, they were my friends. These people became my friends, my family. And I almost felt to an extent that the hostages who were in Gaza, who I didn't know at the time, I felt they were my family already because of the level of closeness that I had with the stories, with the families. So it's a very, you have to, this is a very sensitive thing that you need to juggle. You have to have a lot of sensitivity in what we did. We always had to be very sensitive to the families, to the stories, but we also had to be professional to understand if you have 10 families at an event, not all 10 families can speak in a 1 hour event, right? You have to make sure that the stories are being told, that people understand the diversity here. So it's a very challenging thing to juggle, and I'm sure I made so many mistakes. I mean, I can only look back, and after each event, after each delegation, after each meeting, I would say, oh, I wish I would do this differently. Oh, I wish I would do this and not that. But nobody really prepares you. Nobody ever did anything like this.
Yeah.
So it was hard. People would a lot of the time give us advice. We would seek advice all the time. And then people would give us advice and say, well, you know what? Who knows? No, but the situation has never happened before.
Yeah. How did you keep yourself sane in this whole process?
Good question. You just keep you're just very focused on, there's still hostages in Gaza. We have to do everything. You just don't really think about it. I would wake up every morning and just I can't really think about it. I can't think of my feelings. I can't think about myself. They are still there. We have to get them out, and we just need to keep moving. What's the next meeting? What's the next delegation? What other things that we haven't done? What other event we haven't done yet? Can we do this? Can we send a letter here? Can we do an interview here? You need to all the time think of what else can I do, what I didn't do, and maybe repeat something that I did that didn't really work well. You all the time, you're thinking constantly.
So did you, now that, we still have one hostage left, but all the living hostages are back, did you take some time for yourself to try to breathe and kind of get back to yourself without all that pressure on you for all this time?
Yeah, it's kind of what I feel like I've been doing for the past 2 months, just taking it in. People are like, okay, what are you going to do next? What's this? What's that? And I kind of felt in the past 2 months that just let me breathe. This is this, I've worked hard my entire life, but I've never done anything to this level of pressure and level of, you work, everybody, the entire team in Israel and in the US, we worked 24/7. No breaks, Fridays, Saturdays, holidays. We did this constantly. So I think in the past 2 months, I've taking it in and just took a breath and okay, now it's time to focus on what I do next, what's best for me, for my community, for the people in Israel.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So we mentioned the last hostage, Ran Gvili, and it's been over 800 days. He's still in captivity, unfortunately.
Right. Yeah.
Have you been in touch with his family? Do you know what's going on with them?
So unfortunately, not so much. It wasn't a family that we were in close contact with, but I do know that they are supported. There are a few people in Israel who keep supporting them and also help them maintain the efforts.
Mhm.
I'm not sure at the moment where they stand. We kind of decided, all of us, that there's no need for like the U.S. branch to have to be a branch anymore after most of the hostages have been out. So we closed our operations. But we always said that we are always here to support them, whatever they need, and I hope it will end soon, honestly.
Yeah. So given everything that's been going on recently with Iran and with, Trump and the whole thing, what do you think can be done to ensure that Ran is actually returned to Israel and not be lost forever, like Ron Arad, for example?
I think you need to pressure Hamas. I think from what we understood, I think we were not sure if they actually know where the bodies are. And I think as we understood closely to what was happening, they know where their bodies are and they're playing games. And it's very hard because your enemy is not a logical country, it's not a logical administration, it's a terrorist group.
Right.
And you need to, so the pressure needs to be on them, and the countries needs to pressure them. Qatar, the mediators, Egypt, they need to continue to pressure them to release him, because I think this is my personal opinion, but I think they know where he is, and they just
Well,
won't
I'm
release him.
sure. Yeah, I'm sure they know where he is. I mean, they've been playing these games before with other hostages.
Yeah,
So they know where everybody is. They need to have like a leverage over Israel.
exactly.
Yeah. So following the release of the living hostages, did you get to meet some of them, to hear what they've been through? And did they hear about what you were doing where they were over there?
So yes, I did get the opportunity to meet some of them. It's difficult to tell them exactly what happened here in the past 2 years, because they also have to catch up on their own lives of the
Right.
past 2 years. So you tell them you tell them bits and pieces. Obviously, like when I met some of them, it's difficult to express. I was very emotional when I met them, especially the ones who I was very close with their families. It was a very happy experience, and I just felt there were moments during these 2 years where I was scared that this won't happen. I kept being optimistic, but there are moments that you lose
Yeah.
optimism. It's hard not to. And there were really moments that I feared that we just won't get there, that we won't get to see this day. And when we actually got to see the day, I was extremely, extremely, extremely happy. And I wish we could have saved all of them.
Yes. I
But
mean, yeah. I think up until the last minute, basically, I didn't think it would happen.
yeah.
Yeah. I thought like once I see them in the Red Cross cars, then I know it's actually happening.
Exactly. It's how the families were saying the same thing. Until I actually see them in my own eyes walking in Israel, I won't believe it. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, the deal was signed, everybody was happy, they were updating about progress, but the families kept saying, and also we kept up, because we understood, we knew from the past, until you actually see them walking in Israel, you can't believe anything.
Yeah, that's why I think it was upsetting to me personally, and I know other people too, when some people on social media advertise the names of those who are going to be released. And I always say, like, until they're actually released, you don't know that. And then
Right.
it happened before that. You gave families false hope,
Right.
and then they were not released. So, yeah, but I'm glad we passed that.
Yeah. The only thing, it's also like everything that sometimes, we would publish a lot of things. We would make a lot of information public. Everything that we were made public was we got an approval from the families.
Yes.
Nothing that we ever did, people were like, why are you advertising this? Why are you making this public? And everything that we always, us, the forum, made public, the families gave us approval to make this public. We never did anything on our own. We never went by rumors. We never just did something, okay, this makes sense to us, we'll just do it. This was never how we played things. We always made sure that the families are okay with this. It's even like the pictures that we put up like after a protest. We were made sure the families are okay with these pictures. The families are okay with these posters, because it's very important for us to, this is not about us. This is, we were just here to help the families to echo their message. It's not about me. It's not about my staff. It's not about anybody in the team. It's about these families, these survivors, and their need to advocate for their family members who are still there. And this is their fight. And we were just there to help them during this fight.
Right. And that's, that's the logic of it. I mean, this is their story. This is their fight.
Exactly.
We're helping them with the fight. It's not about, but sometimes, social media, you see people that they want to be the first one to break the news or,
Right. Yeah.
And it's not, it's disrespectful, I think, but
yeah, I agree.
I'm glad we're past that era.
Yeah, me too.
So what do you wish, like those, the hostages, a lot of them got to speak around the world. And they released books. Some of them created their own podcasts and other things. What do you wish for them? What do you want to happen in their lives from now on?
Honestly, I just want them to live their lives. I mean, whatever it is that they choose to do. I always, people sometimes say, oh, I wish they would do this. I wish they would do that. I wish they would speak here. I wish they would do that. And for me, it's just, everything I did in the past 2 years was because of this belief in my heart that people should not be kidnapped from their homes and be in captivity. I just wanted them to be free. And now that they're free, they can do whatever they feel like they want to. They want to do lectures all over the world. They want to do books. They want to write their own books. They want to be models, actors, actresses. Whatever they feel like, I just want them to be happy. And I always tell these to the survivors and the families, like, if you want help in the US, you want to do this, you want to do that, I'm always here for you. But I have no opinion about any avenue that any of them are exploring, right. Because it's their life. I have no, it's none of my business. Yeah. And I just want them to be happy. And if they want to be ambassadors of Israel and showing that Israelis are good people, that's great, that's amazing. But if they don't want to do that and they want to be just want to go back to their quiet lives, that's totally fine. Yeah,
they should be able to just do whatever they want to do.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, they deserve every bit of it. I mean, after everything they've been through, and we've heard some incredible stories in the past few months from survivors, especially recently. A few of them have been interviewed, and some heroic stories. So they deserve all the best and just happiness.
Yeah, that's exactly what I want for them. I just want them to be happy.
Yeah. So now that the forum is almost completed its mission. We still have one left.
Right.
What do you wish for yourself? What do you want to see yourself do next? Do you have any plans for the future? Do you have anything that you wanted to do that you couldn't do in the past couple of years?
It's it's interesting. When I came here on October 7th, I was in New York for about a year or something. I was, as I said, I was a student in Columbia, and I came to New York because I felt like I needed a breather from Israel, from everything related to Israel. I wanted time for myself. And it took October 7th, sadly, for me to understand how connected I am to Israel. I grew up in a half American, half Israeli family, and I would always say to people, I'm half American, half Israeli. But I needed to come to New York to understand that I am Israeli. I am an Israeli person. I have Israeli mentality. I am Israeli from feet to head. And I realized that whether I live here or whether I live in Israel, I will always do something connected to Israel. While I stay here, I will keep supporting and doing initiatives and collaborations that are connected to Israel and helping Israel's democracy, and maintaining the Israel I believe in. So I never thought I would do this, honestly. I always knew I would work in a nonprofit world, but I never thought that I would be advocating for Israel from here.
Mhm.
But October 7th changed a lot for a lot of people. And it also changed me and impacted me in a lot of ways.
Yeah, I think that's something a lot of us feel, like Israelis in the US or abroad in general. That I mean, personally too, I've never been like, I've been active online before,
Mhm.
in 2016, 2018, when there was a lot going on in Israel, but not like this, not on this scale.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, for me, it's been, for better, for worse, for good or for bad, Israel is my home, and I will fight for my home, and I will do whatever I can to make sure my home is the home I want to live in. I want my family to live in. I want my friends to flourish in, and I will do whatever I can to fight for it. And it took October 7th, unfortunately, for me to realize that, but I have come to that realization.
Do you have any plans to going back?
I probably will go back. I
Yeah.
mean, I think it's very clear to me that my time in New York is not, I thought I wouldn't just move here and that's it. But I think I'm understanding more and more that my home is Israel. And I'm giving it a little more here because I feel like I'm not finished here, but I'll go back to Israel eventually.
Okay. That sounds like a lot of people I've heard from recently. But
Yeah.
I think at the end of the day, I think if things continue to get worse like they have recently, I think all of us are probably going to end up back in Israel.
Yeah. We need to make the world better, like
Yeah.
in general.
Oh, definitely. Yes,
Yeah.
definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, Donna, thank you so much for being here. It's been a pleasure talking to you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you all for listening. Until next time.